Representatives from dozens of races crowded the Galactic Council chambers, causing a tense atmosphere to fill the space. The normally calm and orderly council was in a state of chaos, with anxiety so high it seemed to pulse in the air. Overlapping. Voices filled the chamber as participants discussed, demanded, and questioned. This wasn't a typical meeting. It was called in reaction to an unprecedented situation. Humanity, the unpredictable creatures renowned for their tenacity and fortitude, had vehemently declined to engage in negotiations. Their refusal was straightforward, but carried ramifications no one could ignore. For years, humans had built a reputation across the galaxy for their passionate dedication to independence and self-reliance, which often bordered on arrogance. The Council had repeatedly tried to include humanity under galactic rule. Each polite rejection, and more recently, outright dismissal of overtures, now reached a breaking point. An elder council member stood at the center of the room, attempting to bring order. He raised a hand for silence, and the ruckus eventually subsided, though the tension was still evident in every expression and tired posture. In a strained but steady voice, he cleared his throat and spoke. "We have always believed that humanity would recognize the benefits of joining us, that they would understand the mutual advantages of collaboration, yet they persist in rejecting our authority as if it were unimportant." Some council members squirmed uneasily at his words. He continued, "Our peaceful attempts to include them in our system have failed. Now they openly challenge us." A reptilian representative leaned forward, scales gleaming under the dim lighting. With a bold and cutting tone, he added, "Perhaps they assume they're untouchable. We've given them too much freedom. They're out of control." He looked around the room, his piercing eyes questioning the council itself. "Are we a body that tolerates disrespect and defiance from another member? Is that what we've become?" The murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, though it was accompanied by unease. A softer voice, belonging to a representative of a diplomatic species, interjected. "People are not like others. They lack the respect for tradition and order that keeps the galaxy stable. We've all seen what they're capable of, adapting to situations that would kill most of us, thriving in chaos. This isn't defiance, it's their nature." The chamber grew silent again, the weight of her words sinking into each participant. Images and memories of humanity's remarkable resilience came to mind. Time and time again, humans had turned survival into an art form, thriving in conditions that would break most species. They adapt to anything, even situations we consider impossible, another member muttered. The frustration in the room grew palpable. A representative of a technologically advanced species finally spoke up, his voice sharp with disbelief. "They reject our technology. They ignore our rules. What do they hope to gain by isolating themselves? Do they believe they can stand against us?" His voice cracked slightly, betraying his unease. As he spoke, a soft murmur of agreement rolled through the room. Yet, an older delegate from a smaller system shook his head slowly. "They don't reject us out of arrogance," he said softly. "It's a fear of losing control over their destiny. We misunderstand them because we impose our values onto them. They're protecting something we can't see." His words gave pause to the room. Seeing humanity's defiance as something other than simple rebellion was deeply unsettling. If their actions stemmed from an entirely different worldview, it posed a challenge to the Council's understanding of unity. "Are we prepared to acknowledge this?" someone whispered, their voice barely audible. The tension in the chamber continued to build as representatives wrestled with the implications of humanity's independence. Some advocated for harsher measures, insisting that humanity's example could inspire rebellion among other species. Others urged caution, warning that humanity's defiance was not mindless but intentional. "We've tried diplomacy," the elder council member said, his voice weary. "We've tried reason, and still they reject us, but we can't afford to be reckless. Humanity acts with purpose." "They're not aggressors," They're survivors. This sparked heated debate once again. Some nodded in agreement, recognizing the wisdom of understanding humanity before taking action. Others dismissed the idea, insisting that the window for diplomacy had long closed. As the session dragged on, the reality of the situation became clearer. Humanity wasn't defying the Council out of ignorance or malice. They were asserting their right to live on their own terms. For the first time, the Galactic Council faced a force that could not be controlled. As the session ended, a heavy silence fell over the chamber. Representatives left, each lost in their thoughts, grappling with the unsettling truth. Humanity wasn't asking for permission, they were demanding respect. In their quiet defiance, they challenged everything the Council believed about power, unity, and control. And for the first time, the Council felt the weight of their own limitations. Yet to create protection against possible dangers and an opportunity to become part of the greater galactic society. But the humans simply said, "We don't need the Council's approval." They shook their head, a faint smile teasing their lips. Protection? They simply responded, "We've adapted to survive on our own. We face difficulties without assistance. Your resources are valued, but we've figured out how to support ourselves. We are integrated, have our own culture, and follow our own path. We don't require your blessing or your system to flourish." Their tone was devoid of defensiveness, rage, or conceit. They were resolute, convinced that the Council's offer was simply unnecessary. The delegate, feeling uneasy in the grand edifice, came to a disturbing realization. Humanity had no interest in being controlled. Humans existed outside the Council's sphere, neither perceiving themselves as superior nor inferior, but independent of the Council's influence. The delegate attempted a more intimate appeal, moving away from pragmatism toward solidarity and mutual understanding. They spoke of the wealth that could result from unity, but humanity's faces remained unchanged. The delegates' statements conveyed unwavering resolve, unaffected by assurances of security or comfort. "You misunderstand us," one human said, as if they had heard it all before and had already decided. "We are not denying you out of malice. We simply have no desire to cede our independence in favor of a system that restricts us. The Council's directive may be effective for some, but it does not work for us. We take our own chances and deal with the repercussions." The simplicity of the statement stunned the delegate. People weren't arguing for superiority or being hostile. They simply adhered to a distinct philosophy. This dissonance, the rejection of galactic conventions, left the Council unsettled. Humanity wasn't just declining membership. They were claiming a unique way of life that challenged the Council's fundamental assumptions of harmony and order. Realizing they were falling behind, the delegate made another attempt to emphasize the benefits of shared resources and expertise. Yet humanity's expressions remained unchanged. "We appreciate the Council's efforts," a human said, kind but firm. "But even with the advantages you offer, we will not give up our independence. We do not negotiate autonomy." The delegates' frustration grew. How could they convince humanity that isolation increased risks? But the humans appeared to find their persistence almost amusing. Under the rhetoric and diplomacy, a truth emerged that the Council had not anticipated. Sensing the delegates' concern, the human added, "We recognize the risks. It's not that we're blind to them. We simply choose to face them on our own. Refusing the Council's safety is a chance we're willing to take, to uphold our decisions, without monitoring or intervention." These words struck the delegate deeply. Humanity wasn't motivated by prosperity or survival alone. They valued autonomy, the ability to stand alone at any cost. This was something the Council had never needed to consider. To humanity, it was worth every difficulty, every sacrifice. No Council assurance could compensate for the loss of that principle. Finally, with a heavy heart, the delegate returned to the council chambers, recognizing that the galaxy now faced a force unlike any other. Humanity had chosen to stand alone. For the first time, the council's authority seemed insignificant in the face of such unwavering determination. Then a broadcast from humanity reached the central chamber of the Galactic Council. For the first time in history, humanity had initiated contact on their own terms. The communication began plainly, without fanfare or ceremony, as was humanity's way. Their envoy presented a position that shook the council to its core. We acknowledge your attempts to reach out for unity and membership, but we are formally rejecting all offers. Humanity cherishes autonomy, self-determination, and the capacity to chart our own course. There was a pause. A brief silence that magnified the weight of the words. We have chosen to grow in our own way. Your council is an exceptional organization, founded on principles of cooperation and oversight. But these principles do not align with ours. We function independently. While we acknowledge the council's authority over its members, we do not accept that authority over us. We understand the risks of remaining autonomous, and we recognize the dangers that come with it. Yet we are prepared to face them at all costs. This is not an act of hostility. We simply believe that true freedom is found only in self-determination. The council chambers fell silent as the message continued. We do not seek conflict. We will not provoke animosity. But understand this, we will defend ourselves and will not submit to any effort to compel us to yield to your authority.